Hi, this is Pastor Steve Kimes of Anawim Christian Community, and we're doing the story of the Bible. And this is number 2 about Yahweh and Leviathan. All right, let me go ahead and tell you part of the story. Yahweh God is the creator of all things. We talked about that last week. Before anything else existed, Yahweh God created the heavens where he lived and the earth. He created powerful beings to live and rule in the heaven. Dragons and cherubim and angels, and they ruled heaven and earth with Yahweh God. He ruled over everything in heaven, and his powers ruled over the sea and over the air. We don't know how they ruled or what they ruled, but long before mankind, the earth existed with water over all the surface. Among the powers that ruled over the earth was Leviathan, the dragon. But this dragon was wicked and decided to rebel against Yahweh. He called up his whole realm, the waters and the seas, to lift themselves up against Yahweh and to take his place as ruler of the universe. And the waters covered the earth and destroyed everything that existed, making everything chaos. And Leviathan roared in heavens and claimed his authority to rule over all, taking out all the light of the air and bringing darkness. And thus the powers were called darkness. Yahweh was angry that these upstarts that he himself created would try to take his place as ruler, and so he fought against them. In great power, Yahweh fought Leviathan and conquered him, although Leviathan was not killed. At this point, you're sitting there saying, what the heck? I've never heard this Bible story before. Who made this one up? That doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, I remember, God created the heavens and the earth, and then we've got 6 days of creation and then a day of rest. I mean, what is this? Well, this is the story of what happened before the 6 days of creation. And you go, wait a minute, the first chapter of the Bible talks about the first day of creation. How can there be something before? Well, it says so right there in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. It says, first in verse 1, it says that Yahweh created the heavens and the earth. Okay, well, how did that happen? In verse 2, it says the earth was void, which is another word for chaotic. And darkness hovered over the spirit of the deep, over the deep. What is the deep? The deep is water, and then there's darkness over the water. So you've got right there at the very beginning, before anything else, you've got earth, and you've got water, you've got ocean, the deep, and then you've got darkness. That's what you've got. That's what Yahweh's got to work with right at the beginning. And you go, well, wait a minute, well, where'd you get all this stuff with Leviathan and all of that kind of stuff? That just doesn't make any sense. Well, it does if you've really looked at your Bible, because before the events of Genesis 1, we have another place in the Bible that talks about Leviathan and his fight against Yahweh. And that is in Psalm 74, starting at verse 12. It's just one section within that psalm, and so it's easy to miss. The whole psalm is talking about God rise up and defeat your enemies, and he uses as an example, defeat your enemies like you did in the ancient past. Let me go ahead and read it. Psalm 74, starting at verse 12. But you, O God, are my king from of old. You bring salvation upon the earth. It was you who split open the sea by your power. You broke the heads of the monster in the waters. It was you who crushed the heads of Leviathan and gave him as food for the creatures of the desert. It was you who opened up the springs and the streams. You dried up the ever-flowing rivers. The day is yours, yours also the night. You established the sun and the moon. It was you who set all the boundaries of the earth. You made both summer and winter. In that last section where it talks about, you made the sun and the moon and the day and the night and summer and winter, those are all things that we have in Genesis 1 that God created in Genesis 1. And here in Psalm 74, we find the context of why God created the way he created. You notice in Genesis 1, you've got him splitting up darkness and splitting up the waters. Why is he doing that? Because the waters and darkness rose up with Leviathan, according to Psalm 74, to fight Yahweh. This is not the same It is not the same, even though Milton says it is. John Milton said it is in his poem Paradise Lost. It's not the same as the satanic rebellion against God that we find in Revelation chapter 12. When we get to Revelation, then which is going to be a very, very long time away, then we'll talk about how that worked, and that's actually something different. No, instead what we've got here is before Genesis 1, we have a destruction of the world by Leviathan, an attempt to destroy God and to destroy his creation. Wait, how could we have the creation of God before it was already there? Well, obviously, there was a creation of God. It was already there. God already had a creation. In fact, actually, in the Bible, we have God creating and then destroying, and then God creating and then it being destroyed. And that destruction is usually done by water, just like the flood, where you've got a creation of God and then God wipes it out. Well, here, Leviathan is doing the wiping out. And God is saying, okay, you guys rebelled against me. You're trying to take over the earth. I'm going to separate you guys out, and I'm going to put you in jail so you can't do that anymore. And actually, the first part of Genesis 1 is God putting darkness and the waters into jail, putting them in exile, and making them powerless, so that way they are no longer able to take over the earth the way they have, but they are under subjection to Yahweh. So the very first thing that Yahweh does, that God does at the beginning, is he sets up control over the rebels, over Leviathan, who is a dragon, which is another word for a serpent, over Leviathan, and over the waters, and over darkness. I know it seems pretty weird, but go ahead, read it again, Psalm 74, 12 to 17. And next time we'll get into something maybe a little bit more traditional. This is Steve Kimes, and may the Lord bless you and keep you and give you peace.